this out. So we already understood what is performance testing and how do we do performance testing at a high level, right? And what are the prerequisites for performance testing, right? And what is the performance testing life cycle? Are you going through the demo sessions like previous recording sessions? Those who joined late, how many?
Yes, sir.
Only 3. When will you complete remaining? Huh? Complete it faster. So you need to complete those. So once you start scripting, you will get daily assignments. Guys, those who joined online also, please complete the previous recording sessions faster. Because once we start the scripting from next week, you will get daily assignments. Okay. So you may not get time thereafter. So please complete those now itself. Clear, guys?
Okay, sir.
Right. So, so we have seen like performance testing life cycle and what is requirement gathering, what requirements we collect and how do we collect those requirements?
By NFR gatherings, like important business logics will go into.
Right. So you'll share the NFR document to the client and ask them to fill that information. And once you get that information, then you will prepare
The test plan.
Test plans and
document. So once you prepare a test plan document, again you need to share it to the client and get a
Sign off from the client.
approval.
Sign off means approval from the client. Formal approval. It should be in the form of an email. Okay. Then we start scripting, isn't it? Then we start scripting, executions, reports, and all this. Right now, then we start our performance testing activities, the core performance testing activities. Now, to do this performance testing, we require a tool, obviously, right? Without using a tool, we cannot do performance testing because if you are doing functional testing, so yes, you can do manually. You can log into the application, you can go to home page, log into the application, and enter the input and see what is the expected output, whether you are getting expected output or not. That is functional testing. We already discussed that, right? We provide the input and observe the output and see whether we are getting the expected output or not, isn't it? If you are not getting expected output, what will you do? Huh? We mark the test as pass tester.
We will have a meeting with the QA teams.
Okay, by meeting, you can raise a defect, right?
We will raise a defect to the developer who has designed a particular code. In it to Jira.
Right. So you can raise a defect or you can raise a bug and you can assign it to the corresponding developer. If you are seeing for functional issues. So can we raise performance testing engineers raise functional defects? Huh? Why not?
If there is any issue, we can do that.
You can raise a functional issue also. If you have some functional issues, you can raise a defect. You should raise it. You can. We can't do performance testing. Yes. Yes. My question is, can we raise a bug and assign it to the developer? Can we raise a bug in Jira and can we assign it to the developer? We can do that. So if you found some defect, functional issue, you have to check with the QA team first. What do you need to check? If a defect is already raised for that, or if a bug is already raised for that. If it is not raised, yes, you can raise a defect or a bug. Okay, clear, guys? So if you have to check with the QA team, otherwise it will become our functional team. Otherwise, if you don't check and raise it yourself, right? So it will become a duplicate one. If they already raised a defect bug for that, ours will become a duplicate one, isn't it? So you need to check with the QA team and you can raise a defect or a bug, right? And this is the defect life cycle. There is one slide dedicated for defect life cycle in this PPT. So this is a defect life cycle flow chart. And before that, you should know for raising that bug or defect. So you need to know what is what severity you need to assign and what is the priority that you need to assign for that bug or defect. bug priority or defect priority and severity. There are a few concepts here called severity and priority. Right, we'll discuss this. Shall we discuss this now? So what is a software defect? What is a software defect? It is a condition. What is meant by a defect or an issue?
If the expected result, I mean, if the
Are not like
what
met.
is a bug or a defect?
Bug is a issue during the testing.
Right. So
It is
a condition in a software
production.
product which does not meet a software requirement as specified in the requirement specifications or end user expectation. There is a condition, it is a condition in a software product which does not meet a software requirement or end user expectation. Or else a defect is an error in coding or logic that causes a program to malfunction or to produce incorrect or unexpected results. Right? If you found some issue, so issue means it can be a coding issue or a logic issue, or it can be, designing issue, whatever it is, right? But if it produces some incorrect or unexpected results, then it is called as a bug or a defect. Clear? Now, there is a difference between bug and a defect. I think we already discussed this, right? Bugs are issues found during the testing life cycle. Issue in code can cause bugs, whereas defects are issues found in the production environment, prod environment, right? Production environment, we call it as prod environment. Many people call it as prod environment, and maybe a deviation from the requirement. So if you found the issue once the application goes live and if you found the issue in the environment, that is called as a defect. And if you found an issue in the test environment or testing life cycle, you call that as a bug. Very important entry question. What is the difference between bug and a defect? Okay, or what is a software defect, or what is a bug? Right? These are some important entry questions around this concept. And now, when you are raising a bug or a defect, you have to assign some severity or priority. Okay, you have to assign some priority or severity, right? So severity means it indicates the degree of negative impact on the quality of the software. It indicates degree of negative impact on the quality of the software. That means whether it is a critical defect or a major or minor or trivial. Okay, trivial means, so critical, major, minor, you know that meaning of those words. But what is the meaning of trivial? Ignorable, yes. So trivial means less important, which is having less importance. What is the meaning of trivial? Trivial means of little value or importance or little importance. Okay, less important. Suppose that is a negligible one. You something that you can ignore, right? But still that is an issue, right? So you can assign it to sev4. So you read this one as if it is a critical issue, right? If it is it is having a lot of impact on the application. So you assign it as a sev1 defect, or you assign the severity as critical, or that is read as sev1. SEV for severity. Severity 1 is read as sev1. We call that as a sev1 defect or sev2 defect, sev3 defect, sev4 defect, and so on. And these are the different severity levels: critical, major, minor, and trivial. If you are not sure about the severity, right? So like you can discuss, or you can daily you will be having stand-up calls anyways, right? Every day you will be having stand-up calls with the team. You can discuss in the team, and you can discuss what severity. You can ask your team lead or project lead. So what severity should I assign, and what is the priority that I should assign? You can do it. Otherwise, you can assign it, and developer will change it. They can change it later also. You can change it later also. But if you found some defect, raise the defect. Check with your QA team if a defect is already raised. If it is not raised, then if it is not already raised, right? So you can raise a defect, and you can, but you should know whom to assign also. To which developer you need to assign. Or else if we don't know, again, don't hesitate to raise a defect. You can raise it, and you can assign it to some developer. They will redirect it to the correct developer. if he is not, suppose you would assign it to developer A, and there are 3 developers in the team. So developer A will look into it, and our developer 1 will look into it, that defect. He will get an email as soon as you submit the defect, right? So he will assign it to the correct person. But don't hesitate to, need not hesitate to raise a defect, because that will add your that will add some credit to you. You'll get some credit for finding the defects and raising the defects. Clear this? So you need not hesitate to raise, even though it is a functional issue or a performance issue. Performance issue, obviously, we only have to raise the defect, right? But if it is a functional, even if it is a functional issue, you can raise a defect, and before raising it, just discuss with your team lead or project lead that, can I raise a defect? I am planning to. Don't say, can I raise a defect? He may say that, no, I will raise a defect, and he will get the credit. Okay. Tell that, I am about to raise a defect for this. I found a functional issue. So I am about to raise a defect. Who is the corresponding developer? Can you help me? What is the severity? What should be the priority level? And then raise a defect on yourself. That will add you some credits. Okay. The more defects you found, the more you will have credits. The more credits you will have. Clear, guys? And now, but that is why you need to participate in the daily stand-up calls and user stories demo. Whenever developers, you should not miss any meetings, team meetings, basically. Then you will know, you'll get all this information. Who is the developer working on that, and whom should you assign to, etc. Right? You will get all that information. Understood, guys? I'll explain that, what is a user story demo, and how do we know which developer is working on which feature, right? And whom to assign a defect. When you get some performance issue also, you need to assign to some developer, right? అంటే ఏ డెవలపర్ అయితే ఆ ఫంక్షనాలిటీ మీద వర్క్ చేస్తున్నాడో తనకి అసైన్ చేయాలి. How do you know that information? By attending the team meetings and your user stories demo. There you will understand, right? And now, apart from severity, you also have something called defect priority. Defect priority, also known as bug priority, indicates the importance or urgency of fixing a defect. Guys, this I am covering this for, particularly for Prashanti and Sweta. You have, we are expecting some interviews this week, guys, for Sweta and Prashanti. Right?
Okay, Parth.
I did not cover this before, right? So that's why I'm covering now, right? So
Okay.
you can expect some questions on this bugs and defects in the interviews. Definitely you will have on this. Have you raised any defects? How do you do defect tracking, right? Which tool are you using? So which tool? Jira is the popular tool for doing the defect tracking, right?
Yeah.
Jira is the most popular tool for doing defect tracking. Defect tracking means what
defects are there? We will all will be updated by all the teams in the Jira tool, so we can use Jira to see what all defects are there.
Right. So
Raised by different teams.
What is that?
Raised by different teams, we can view the defects there in Jira tool.
Right. So Jira is a popular defect tracking tool. Tracking means where we raise the defects, where we track the defects, right? Etc. etc. Right. So that is Jira is one popular tool. Now, so every day you will be having stand-up calls. Remember this. That is why, right? So if you you don't, when can you speak out in the? Okay. First of all, let us discuss what are the agenda items for stand-up calls, daily stand-up calls. Any project, whether any project you take, you will have daily stand-up calls. And now in those stand-up calls, what will we discuss in the stand-up call is, and who will be involved in the stand-up call, first of all. So who all will be involved in the stand-up call? Your project manager, your team lead, yes, your team lead or project lead, right? And all the team members. And if it is QA team stand-up call, right, you will have the whole QA team. That means functional team, automation team, and performance team, security team, right? So all these teams will be involved in the stand-up call. QA team means functional testing team, automation, and performance, and security teams, security testing team, if it is there. If you have a separate team for security testing, right? All these teams will be involved in this daily stand-up calls. And now what we will discuss is, so your project lead or team manager will be running that call. And what will we discuss is every team member should update what activities they worked on yesterday. What activities? What activities? Suppose if it is a morning stand-up call, generally you'll have stand-up calls in the morning time. So you need to tell everyone, every team member should explain what activities you worked on previous day. Even though you informed, you had a discussion with your manager, you should let everyone know in the team what did you work on yesterday and what are the planned activities for today. And any, yes, what is the third one important? You have three important agenda items. Any impediments or blockers. Means if you are blocked with something, if you are unable to make any progress because of some blockers or because of some issues, right? So you need to put it forward. You need to explain that in the stand-up call. Then someone, in the team or your lead or project lead or manager will help you. Okay. Clear? So you have to update it immediately. If you are blocked with something, you need to update it immediately. So that, they will be, suppose, they will be able to help you. But otherwise, like if you don't, give an update in the meeting and suppose you are given a task, you are doing some scripting or something or test execution, you are blocked with some issue. So, right, so don't wait, don't assume that, like I will try that and then I will let them know. No. If you are blocking, if you are facing some issue, if you are blocked with something, you need to immediately update it and tell them that I am trying it on my own. So if anyone faces this issue, please help me. Okay. See if you can help me, if you can unblock, right? So that is the third one, any impediments or blockers. So we'll have daily stand-up calls and you have to speak out. Everyone should speak out, obviously, right? And this is where, like some people go through proxy and backdoor, they will not be able to speak out with you because they don't know the subject, right? So unless until we know the subject, we will not open our mouth, right? So chala doubts untai. Chappocha leda idi. Or can we ask this or no? What will they think if I ask this? Isn't it? Or like correct or wrong, right? So if you have all this, definitely you cannot speak out. Isn't it? You cannot actively participate in the meetings. And then they will start suspecting you if you are not speaking or if you are not opening your mouth. And remember, even though you are joining online, they will ask you to turn on the video. Okay. If any company stand-up call, they will ask you to turn on the video because, they should know what you are doing. They should see you. Got it? So that is where many people get caught here. So those who go through proxy or all this, they will get caught here. So because, the guy who did the proxy will not ask questions. He cannot join daily and he can't ask questions on your behalf, right? Isn't it? So, and they will not accept if you don't turn on the video also, they will not accept. Right? So now, and then, so you should, if you are blocked with something, any issue or blockers, like you need to bring it to the team's notice immediately. Okay. And even if suppose you are blocked yesterday and you already informed the manager yesterday, you need to explain that again today in the stand-up call because everyone will be there in the stand-up call. Every team member will be there in the stand-up call. And if you cannot attend stand-up call for any reason, so inform in advance that I cannot attend today. Okay. But you cannot skip daily. Right? You can't skip the meetings daily. Clear this? So it is a mandatory one. Huh? Recording is in progress. What's going on? What is that? Recording is happening. You see here? Yeah. Right? So it's a mandatory meeting. Every team member should join. It's a mandatory meeting for everyone. So don't think that, you can skip the meeting. If you cannot speak out, don't think that you can skip the meeting. Okay. So you cannot skip the meeting daily. Got it? Now, so, and and as work from office started, yes, there is no chance for that also. You cannot, skip the meeting. If you skip the meeting, like what happens is they will ask you to take leave for that day. Okay. Suppose if you are daily skipping the meetings, they will see 1 or 2 times. If you are skipping meetings, they will ask you, we are marking your attendance as absent. And even though you go to office, so they will mark your attendance as absence, and they will ask you to apply for the leave. Right? So don't think that we can skip the meetings and we can discuss later with personally with your teammates. No, that won't be possible. Clear, guys? Now, so coming back to this defect life cycle, so in the stand-up call, you can also mention if you found any defects. You can also mention that, like, I found there is some issue, functional issue. So you can ask QA team. QA team will be there in the stand-up call, right? You can ask them, like, is there any defect already raised for this issue, right? If they say yes, suppose they did not raise a defect, no one from the functional team identified that, but they say that yes, we already raised a defect. Then what will you do? Ask the ticket number. Ask them to share the ticket number. Okay. If they really did not raise, they will be next time. At least next time they will not say that without raising a ticket. They will not say that they have raised a ticket, right? At least next time. Okay. To cover that, they may raise a defect. When you are speaking and when you are in the stand-up call, they may raise a defect. But next time they will not dare to do that. Is it? So if you found some issues like that, credit should come to you, right? That is my whole intention in explaining this. Clear, guys? Now, and suppose if you don't know severity and priority, not an issue. So you can ask your team lead or project lead. So what is the severity that I should assign, and what is the priority that I should assign? Or else, can I give that as a priority as P1 or P2? Ask like this. So should the priority be P1 or P2? What is the priority that I should assign, and what is the severity that I should assign? Whether it should I raise a sev1 defect or sev2 defect? So basically, sev1 defect means which are critical, very important. Those are called as sev1 defects, and which are not so critical but major defects, those are called as sev2. And then minor means slightly less, it is a defect, but it is a minor defect, not so important. Very less important is trivial, categorized as trivial. Suppose trivial means some UI issue. Let's say, for example, you are seeing some, instead of capital letters, developer has written some small letter, or they gave some unnecessary spaces. Those are less important. Your application will work fine, but it is a small issue, less important issue. So those can be treated as trivial ones, or sev4 bugs or defects. And again, what is priority? Priority indicates the importance or urgency of fixing a defect. Whether you should fix it immediately, whether it should be fixed urgently, or high priority, like so yeah, I gave it here. Urgent means must be fixed immediately or in the next build. Immediately, or read this slash as or. If you have found a defect which should be fixed immediately or in the next build, that you can call it as urgent, and you can give priority as P1, right? If it is high, when we call a defect as a high priority, is must be fixed in any of the upcoming builds, but should be included in the release. That can be categorized as high priority. And medium means may be fixed after the release or in the next release, right? That will be called as medium. And low means may or may not be fixed at all. I told, right? Suppose there is some UI issue, right? Or there is some color issue. So developers did not use a proper color. So these are all less important, very less important. They can be fixed or they cannot be fixed. Your application, if your application works fine, I chesna cheyipayina defect fix chesna cheyipayina my application work avutundi anko. That is low priority. That will be low priority or P4. Clear this? So based on this, you will assign severity and priority. And then once you raise a defect, you need to assign it to the developer for, you need to assign it to the corresponding developer. You found a defect, and then you open a defect and you assign it to some developer, and then developer will check. See, this is a decision tree or decision, see, you have different shapes here, right? You have oval shape and then rectangle shape and then what is this? Rhombus.
Rhombus.
Okay.
Rhombus.
Right.
Rhombus.
So this is a decision. This indicates a decision, right? So if it is an issue, really an issue, right? If it is yes, developer should fix the issue.
Fixed.
It is no, they will reject the defect. They can reject the defect as well. Okay. If developers thinks that it is not an issue, they will not ask you why did you raise a defect. They will simply reject the defect. Or they will not question you, or they will not escalate anything. Why asking why did you raise this defect? Right? They will reject, they can reject the defect. Clear this. But if it is a defect, if the defect is true, if it is really an issue, they need to work on it. Right? Developer fixes the issue and send it again for testing. They'll fix the issue and then they will mark the defect status as to be verified or ready for testing. Ready for testing. So there will be different defect stages. There will be different defect stages like open, new, right? In progress, ready for test, verified, or fixed or done. Right? There will be different phases in the defect. Okay, and that is called as defect life cycle. That is called as defect life cycle, and this is the flow chart diagram for defect. If you are, if someone is like a good interviewer, he may ask you to draw a flow chart also. They will ask you to share your screen, or they will ask you to draw the flow chart for this. Flow chart means that will explain how the flow will be from the beginning of the defect to close the defect getting closed, isn't it? So once the developer fixes it, again he will mark the test ready for testing, and again you need to test whether the issue is fixed or not. If it is yes, you will close the defect, or you will mark it as verified. Otherwise, you will reopen the defect. If the issue is still there, right? If the issue is still there and the defect is not fixed, right? Issue fixed is no. If this is the case, you will reopen the defect, or you will again assign it to the developer, right? Again, you will change it to in progress. Clear guys? Or reopen the defect. Suppose if developer fixes it and closes it, and you test that and you found that the issue is not fixed, and you can reopen the defect. Clear guys? So this is defect life cycle. So I'll take a pause here. Any queries, guys? And this is another important interview question. What is the difference between authentication and authorization? We'll discuss that later. Any queries in this software defect and severity, priority, and defect life cycle? So tomorrow I'll try to register with Jira. I'll try to create an account and a free account, and I'll see whether we can. I can show you this practically. I'll try that. We can do that with Jira. So it provides a trial version, I believe. So I'll try that. Usually, previously we used to run manual testing training. There, our manual testing trainer used to cover that. Okay. So I'll look into it later. Right. And any queries? So if you don't have any queries, we'll move to the next concept. There are a few more important definitions that you should know before starting scripting. So there are some important definitions that you need to know before starting scripting. One is first client-side metrics. I want to cover client-side metrics. What is meant by client-side metrics? So response time, hits per second, throughput, those are called as client-side metrics. First thing. Okay. Title of the slide, I hear that. Client-side metrics, those are the important client-side metrics. What are those? Response time, hits per second, throughput. Now let us understand what is response time, what is hits per second, and what is throughput. Right? So what is response time? You already know that. Everyone knows that, right? What is meant by response time?
The amount of time taken for the request to be done, the server to be processed, and the request to get back, response to get back to the client.
The time taken from the moment you send the request and server processing
the request and sending.
Right, that is called as
Sends back.
Right. Our response time is the amount of time from the moment that a user sends a request until the time that the application indicates that request has been completed. Or simple, if you want to define simply response time, you see that in the brown color highlighted. I have highlighted and gave a simple definition. It is the total time it takes from when a user makes a request until they receive a response. That is response time. And response time is important in performance testing because it represents how long a user must wait for a request to be processed by an application. And slow response times obviously means unhappy user experience, and it will also result in the loss of revenue. Right? So let's say, for example, you are placing an order on Amazon or Flipkart, right? You are placing some order. You want to buy iPhone 15 and you placed an order on. You made the payment. You made a payment using your debit card or credit card. And once you make a payment and hit the submit button, you will expect a confirmation message, isn't it? Now, what if you are not seeing the response, that confirmation message? The page is still loading, and you saw a white page, or you saw page can't be displayed, right? Then what will be your state of mind at that time?
We are not sure whether it is confirmedly booked or not, and will be unhappy.
Right. So, and you want to buy it immediately. You are trying to do a pre-booking, or you want to become the first one who placed an order or something. Or else, obviously, suppose it is a costly product, so you will definitely expect some confirmation message, isn't it? So it's more than a lakh, and definitely you will wait for, you will be curious, or you will be eagerly waiting for a confirmation message, isn't it? Once you make the payment, because you should know whether the payment is processed or not, whether the order is placed or not, isn't it? Yes or no? Suppose if your amount is deducted or debited from your account, but you are not seeing a confirmation message, right? Then, so what will you do? What would be your thought process at that time?
We will raise and complain.
What is it?
We can raise and complain, but if it is not,
You raise a complaint, or why? So you can wait for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, or you can wait till you receive the order, right? No, you not wait.
Yeah, yes, sir. We can.
We can't wait. Obviously, we cannot wait, because when we make some payment, we expect some confirmation message, isn't it? Right?
Yes, sir.
So once you pay the fee, you will ask me for confirmation. Please, can you please check and confirm, isn't it? Right?
Yes, sir.
If you don't respond, you will get unhappy, right? You will get irritated. Why this guy is not responding after making payment? Yes or no? Yeah. Till now
Yes,
he
sir.
responded well. Now he is not responding. Right? You think it that way, right? Isn't it? So obviously, it will be an unhappy user experience. It will result in loss of the revenue. Next time, if you want to buy any product, you will think twice or thrice whether you want to use Amazon or Flipkart or that particular e-commerce application or not. Or you will definitely think whether you will definitely hesitate to place an online order, isn't it? Next time you prefer to go to the store. If that experience happens, if you face that experience, isn't it? Right. So
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
response time is very important. We understood how much importance response time is having for any application, whether it is a web application or a mobile app or a desktop application, whatever the application may be. Right. Now, what does the transaction response time, what does that comprise of? What does that consist of? Right? So you sent a request to the server, and your request will first go to the web server, isn't it? Did we discuss this architecture diagram? Yeah. So
Yes,
you are sending some request. You are trying to place an order on Amazon or Flipkart, and you placed an order from your browser, or you placed an order from your mobile app, right? And now your request will first go to web server. Sorry. Right? So your request will first go to web server via load balancer. If there is a load balancer, it will go via load balancer to the web server. Now, web server will take some time to process, isn't it? And if the request is a static request, if you send a request for static content means, what is the meaning of static content and dynamic content? Let me take some example.
Static.
Yeah.
See, let's say, for example, if you go to Gmail,
The one which doesn't change.
right? So
Doesn't change. Homepage will be visible same for everyone.
right. So the first time you go to Gmail, every user will see this page only, right? And now once you enter your email ID or phone number, then it will ask for password. And once you are login, it will show your inbox. If you log in with your account, it will show your inbox. If I log in, it will show my inbox, isn't it? And that contents changes. Or else if you take another example. So this is static content. This content, this page content will be same for everyone. But once you log in, the content will be dynamic content. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Or if you take IRCTC example, suppose you type IRCTC.co.in. Every user will get the same page, right? So this is the static page, right?
Static page. Yes.
Static page. Of course, date changes, but every user will get the same page, isn't it?
Hmm.
Whether you access IRCTC or I access or Modi access it or or Jagannath access it, right? It will be the same, isn't it? Right? So this is the static content. Now this static content will be served by the web server itself. The web server will serve that static content, right? But however, suppose if you search for trains from one city to another city, let's say for example, you search for, of course, you need to log in, right? That is my first employee ID, guys. I know maybe you might be thinking that what is this username? Right? So that's my first employee ID in IT. Yes, sir. So we need to enter that captcha, right? Those are captchas, right? You know that. And these are image captchas. Okay. Actually, that's an image that comes here. So if you don't understand, refresh it. Sorry. Doesn't allow to log in, right? It doesn't allow to search, isn't it? Is it capital K or small k?
Small K.
Hey, looks like capital K, man. Looks like
Small K, sir. Small K.
Small K power.
Is it? Invalid captcha. Yeah, it is small k only. Sorry. You are correct. 4H3. Yeah. Now let us say you are searching for trains between two cities.
Hyderabad to Bengaluru.
Now your web server will not have all these details, right? All these details, train details, and availability, right? And train details, availability, ticket cost, all these details will be stored in the database, isn't it? All those details will be stored in the database. Suppose if someone book a ticket, that will be updated in the database table, and it will show you the remaining tickets, isn't it? Now, so and this is dynamic content. Again, this is dynamic content, isn't it? That content changes from time to time, right?
Person to person.
Right. So now, so this dynamic content, it can be served by the web server. So now your web server will send that request. Suppose you search for two trains between two cities, your request will be sent to application server, and application server, also will not have those details. All those details will be stored in some tables in the database. Now your application server will be having some Java code or .NET code, and it will run some queries. It will run some query like select star from trains table, where source is equal to Hyderabad, destination is equal to Bangalore, and it will run that query on the database, and database will return some data. Now that data will be sent from database server to app server will send the data to web server will send the data to the browser. So whatever we see in the browser, that always comes from presentation, this web server. That's why this is called as presentation tier. Right? And if there is any logic or application logic that will be running on, that will run on application server, right? And any data to be persisted. What is the meaning of persistence? See, database layer is mentioned as persistence tier. So what is the meaning of persistence? Persistence means storing something for some time, isn't it? Persistence meaning in database, search in database, in terms of database. Right? Persistence denotes a process or object that continues to exist even after its parent process or object ceases, or the system that runs it is turned off. Right? So it will exist for some time, right? Isn't it? So that is, whatever data you save into a database, that will exist for some time, isn't it? Unless until someone deletes it. That's why it is called as persistence tier. Now, so your request, will be whatever request you send from the browser, it will go to web server first. Some time will be spent on that web server, and then it goes to application server. Application server takes some time, right? Seconds or milliseconds to process the request, and then the request will go to database server, and then it will travel all the way back from database to app server to web server to browser. Now your transaction response time is the sum of all these processing times, right? It is the sum of all these processing times, yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Right? So that is what I explained here. Transaction response time consists of processing time on the web server, processing time on the application server, processing time on database server, and network latency. What is meant by network latency? Network latency means the time spent in the network between the server and the client, right? It will take some time for your request to go to or travel over the internet to the servers and then receive the response, right? The time spent in the network is called as network latency. Right? So response time of the request is equal to processing time plus network latency. Processing time means processing time on web server, app server, DB server plus network latency, time spent in the network, right? So I thought of this example. So to give you some real world analogy, I thought like that is a very good example, that food delivery time, because everyone is using Swiggy or Zomato nowadays, right? Suppose you place an order on Swiggy or Zomato, right? So it takes half an hour. It will show you that this food delivery takes half an hour. That half an hour will be sum of the food process preparation time plus traveling time of that delivery boy, isn't it? So that is food preparation time plus travel time of the delivery person, right? If the travel time is more, suppose there are more signals in between the restaurant and your home, traveling time will be more. Or if traffic is more, traveling time will be more, obviously. The same way, suppose if there is network latency, suppose if there is network delay, your response time will be high. Or if any of these processing time is high, for example, there is some issue on the database side and it is taking more time on database, or there is some code issue on the application server, right? Your response time will be high, also high, isn't it? It will be impacted badly. Clear, please? So this is transaction response time in detail. Transaction response time is nothing but processing time plus network latency, right? Now you should not forget this. That is why you should not forget this network latency. That's why I gave this example. Okay. Clear, guys? Now, so now let us understand. Should we stop here, guys? Let's stop it there. We'll continue tomorrow. Okay. Or else, okay, let me complete this. Otherwise, at least I will complete this hits per second and throughput, and I will stop. You like this example, guys? Huh?
Yes, sir.
Why are you not clicking like I am giving good examples daily? Why are you not clicking likes to the videos?
I'm keeping Pawan. I'm liking your videos.
Okay. Yeah, yesterday I saw immediately after uploading LoadRunner session, I saw. Is that you, Prashanti?
Yeah, Pawan. I was searching for the yesterday's video.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Right? Yes, please click a like, right? So that will be a lot helpful to me. If it is a public video, please share your feedback. Right? So if you attended some training before and if you feel that this is better, right? Share your genuine feedback, honest feedback. Okay. I will not ask you to share a good feedback. So share your feedback, whatever it is. Okay. If it is a public video, you can add comments for those videos. But if it is a private video, you will have only option to like or dislike. Right? If you don't like, click dislike. Okay. But click something, do something. All right. Okay. Make some noise. Don't be silent. All right. Okay. Now, so what is throughput now? The next client-side metric is, we have three important client-side metrics, right? Yeah. Response time, hits per second, and throughput. Now let us understand what is throughput. So throughput means that is the net, and again throughput, you have server-side throughput, client-side throughput. Throughput law, there are two types of throughput. One is client-side throughput, the other one is server-side throughput. This is client-side throughput or network throughput, right? So what is network throughput or client-side throughput is, It is a sum of byte sent plus byte received. That means, suppose if you send a request from your browser, okay, suppose you went to Amazon, this is one request that you are sending. Now your request will be some size, right? Yesterday we discussed. Your request will contain, what does your request contain? HTTP or HTTPS request contain? Prakash?
Status, timestamp.
Status. Request line lo status.
Request line, request header, and request body.
Right. You will have request, HTTPS request will consist of request line, request headers, request body. So it will have some size, right? The data will have some size, isn't it? So that request will have some size, and you got some response. Suppose you got some response. That response also will be some size. That means some data will be transferred over the internet, right? So some data will be transferred, and data transfer is measured in bits and bytes, etc. Bits, bytes, kilobytes, megabytes, gigabytes, etc. Isn't it? Now, throughput is nothing but sum of bytes and plus sum of plus bytes received. That is sum of request size plus response size. When you send a request and you receive a response, there will be some data transferred, right? That sum of data transferred is called as throughput. Client side throughput, remember, this is client side throughput or network throughput. Clear? And it is measured in kilobytes per second. Throughput is measured in units of kilobytes per second. Right? And it is the measurement of bandwidth consumed during the test. Bandwidth means how much data is consumed, isn't it? And it shows how much data is flowing back and forth from your servers, from your client or browser to servers. How much data is flowing? That metric will give you an information, an idea about how much data is transferring back and forth from your servers, right? And for now, remember, for now, try to understand whatever I have highlighted. Okay, that is enough. These concepts, I will explain it, later on. Okay, I'll explain those concepts later on. What is this increase in response time with flat throughput? What does that tell you? We could discuss those concepts when we are discussing analysis part. Okay, now, is it throughput clear? Throughput is nothing but, if you want to define throughput, client side throughput is sum of bytes and plus bytes.
Bytes and plus bytes.
Received.
I ask you what is meant by throughput, right? So you can ask him like, are you referring to client side throughput or server throughput? Yeah. Or you can tell that throughput, we can, there are two types of throughput. One is client side throughput or network throughput. It is sum of bytes and plus byte received. Server side throughput means how many transactions an application is able to process per second. That is server side throughput. What is server side throughput? How many transactions your application is able to process per second. That is server side throughput or server throughput. Number of transactions an application is processing. An application is processing per second. This is server side throughput. Now, client side throughput means, client throughput or network throughput means
Bytes and plus bytes.
Bytes and plus bytes.
sum of bytes sent plus byte received. Bytes sent plus byte received. So sum of, or else you can define it as sum of request size and response size, isn't it? Request size, isn't it? Plus response size. Any queries? Client and browser record. And it is measured in kilobytes per second. Clear? Yes, that is the unit of measurement, kilobytes per second. All right, and then hits per second. The next one is hits per second, right? Now, so another important entry question, very, very important entry question. What is the difference between request per second and hits per second? Very important entry question. Okay, now let us understand what is this. Let me write it down here also, add it in your class notes, because it is an important entry question. And if it, it will be one of the first 10 or 5 interview questions. What is the difference between request per second and hits per second? You need to understand first what is the difference between a request and a hit. You need to first understand what is the difference between request and a hit. Okay. And for that, I'll take this sample application. I'll start the web tools server. And did everyone set up that application? Did I share that application with everyone?
Yes, sir.
How many of you set up that application on your system successfully?
I set up this.
Okay. Others, how about others? Mohana, Prashanti. Prashanti, you already did that. Mohana and Sai Dishiv, Teja.
Today I will do it, so.
Now let me access that application. So this is the URL of that web tools application, right? So we are sending a request to the server. And now if you open developer tools, right? Let me open developer tools. Let me send the request again. I'm doing a control refresh, right? Or control enter. Hey, what happened? Localhost.com ouతుంది. Okay, that's why it is throwing an error, right? Let me clear this once and let me do a control refresh. Okay, now observe here. This is the request that I have sent in the browser address bar, right? But see here, there are actually there are 8 requests that are sent to the server. Observe here. There are a total of 8 requests or 8 hits to the server. One for index.html, another for header.html, this part. Yesterday we discussed, right, how these are called. Internally, right? You call index.html and index.html will call header.html and welcome.pl. Welcome.pl will call hplogo.png. That header.html will call hplogo.png, webtools.png. So internally they will be called, right? సో మీ ఇంట్లో ఫంక్షన్ ఉంది, మీరు ఇంట్లో పేరెంట్ అంటే ఇంట్లో పెద్దవాళ్ళకి పిలిచారు, సో వాళ్ళు వాళ్ళ పిల్లల్ని తీసుకొస్తారు, రైట్? వాళ్ళ పిల్లలు వాళ్ళ ఫ్రెండ్స్ కూడా తీసుకున్నారు, రైట్? ఆర్ దేర్ రిలేటివ్స్, ఇజంట్ ఇట్? సో మీరు మీ ఇంట్లోకి వచ్చిన వాళ్ళ బంధువులు అందరూ రండి అని చెప్తారు, రైట్? సో here also internally they will be called, isn't it? Now this is called as HTTP request and these are called as hits to the server. How many calls were sent to the server? Those are called as hits, right? Index.html, header.html, welcome.pl, these are called as hits. And you can see the count here. There are a total of 8 requests that are sent to the server and these requests are called as hits, right? Or sub requests. Sub requests are hits. That is the difference between request and a hit. Request means whatever we send it from the browser, that is called as a request. And hits means how many calls are sent to the server or how many hits went to the server. Those are called as hits. Clear, guys? And what is the difference between request and a hit? Or what is the relationship between, they can ask you like this also. What is the relationship between the request and a request per second and a hits per second? Or what is the relation between request and a hit? Request and a hit. What will you say
The
this?
number of
One
main
request may
requests,
have many hits.
Right.
many
So
requests
one
sent to
request
the
can
server.
have many hits. So one to many relation, can we call it as one to many relation? Right? Or what is the difference in request and hits? Request per second and hits per second. Request per second is nothing but how many requests sent to the server by the user. That is called as request per second. Hits means how many calls were sent to the website totally, in total, including sub requests. Right? Those are called as hits per second. Clear this? So request per second is the number of requests made to the web server. Hits per second is number of calls to the web server per second. The actual sub requests that are sent to the web server per second, those are called as hits. And difference between this request and hits per second means one request may have many calls to the server, right? So with this we completed response time, hits per second and throughput, right? I'll stop it here, please. I'll stop it here for today and we'll continue tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll complete this transaction, ping time and pacing. And then we'll start JMeter from Monday onwards. Tomorrow is Saturday, right? So I will complete this and I will give an assignment. Okay. I'll give an assignment tomorrow, online test. And I already added, no, I need to still add you to that online test platform. So please share your, if you did not, I think I already received your Gmail IDs, everyone. You need to confirm your joining to receive that that online test case, by the way. Okay. So those who paid fees only will be receiving that online test and will be allowed from Monday onwards. All right. So I'm stopping the recording. So before starting, let me do some marketing. Yes, please feedback and click like for the videos, private videos, and for public videos, please share your feedback. Okay.